Today, I'd like to take a trip down memory lane. Because often, what leftists still do is they'll provide a narrative that you know is false. But it takes time to have enough data, enough hindsight to prove that they were wrong. And by the time the data has been gathered, the facts are out, they will have moved on to the next topic, never admitting to how wrong they were. And while the Serfs would never apologise and correct himself for how stupid he was, I'd like to take the time to do that for him.
Tucker Carlson goes on a tear against Fauci, makes a buffoon-level comment, is he even right about science?
On May 17th, 2020, Lance uploaded this video entitled Tucker Carlson Goes Full Conspiracy Theory on Anthony Fauci.
Is my concern that if some areas, cities, states, or what have you, jump over those various checkpoints and prematurely open up without having the capability of being able to respond effectively and efficiently, my concern is that we will start to see little spikes that might turn into outbreaks.
So just to be clear, Fauci was not simply talking about certain workers or even all workers staying at home for the foreseeable future. He implied that schools and colleges will be able to reopen only if there is a cure for this virus or a vaccine. He said that prospect was a bridge too far. In other words, no.
Wow, just what a maniac! He doesn't want to sacrifice kids. He doesn't want to put kids' lives on the line. I mean, oh wow!
We now know that deaths from COVID among children was incredibly rare, and they were overcounting hospitalized children.
Is that if you look at the children who are hospitalized, many of them are hospitalized with COVID as opposed to because of COVID. And what we mean by that, if a child goes in the hospital, they automatically get tested for COVID, and they get counted as a COVID hospitalized individual, when in fact they may go in for a broken leg or appendicitis or something like that. So it's overcounting the number of children who are, quote, hospitalized with COVID as opposed to because of COVID.
So we weren't really protecting children by implementing these policies. And we're now beginning to see the disastrous consequences of keeping children out of school.
Math scores dropped in every state during the pandemic. Report card shows the largest education department analysis of test scores since COVID-19 pandemic began reveals sweeping declines.
School closures and what the impact of all of it is. And unfortunately, it's becoming very, very clear that school closures and the fallout from COVID have been a national catastrophe. After the pandemic in 2020, they just absolutely fell off a cliff, both on national math and on national reading tests.
And not only did their education suffer, as predicted, it also took a drastic toll on their mental health, as children weren't allowed to mix with their friends, play and explore like they normally would.
Fauci says the children must stay home or countless people will die. That's the message. It's time to ask a very simple question. How does he know this exactly? Is Tony Fauci right about the science?
Once you get an administration so firmly pushing back against the science, like why do I usually lie firmly in the side of science? Because I find that it's really good at making predictions, and it's also really good at helping and or ameliorating people.
That's why I think this video is important to make. The left was constantly claiming they were on the side of science, and anyone who questioned the nonsense they were putting out was labelled a conspiracy theorist, epitomized by the idiot Ethan Klein.
The CDC is like this whole governmental body with scientists and shit that just tell us what to do. You don't have to think about it, dude.
Duh, it's like science and shit. You don't even have to think about it, dude.
There's a distinct anti-science flavor to this. So if they get up and criticize science, nobody's going to know what they're talking about. But if they get up and really aim their bullets at Tony Fauci, well, people could recognize there's a person there. So it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. That's dangerous.
Idiots like Ethan Klein and Lance from the Serf Times ate this up. It's dangerous to criticize anything we do. I'm the science. Don't criticize me. What are you, anti-science?
As of right now, very few people under 18 have been seriously hurt by the coronavirus. So when he was asked about that, Fauci simply said, we don't.
So again, science. Let's just talk about that for a little while, because science is a mystery sometimes. It's whatever you want it to be. You know, science it's changing. It's all around us.
He's saying the science changes, sarcastically. But it does, as proven by the fact that everything you've said in this video is wrong. In the Serf's view, the science is whatever you're told it is, and you're not allowed to question it, when in fact, science is supposed to be questioned and debated.
Do we have any particular reason to think he is right? Well, right now, there is an awful lot of evidence indicating that America should cautiously reopen. Sweden never shut down at all, and it doesn't appear much worse than the United States on average. Many countries.
There it is, everybody. Sweden. By the way, this is the other Nordic countries. This is Denmark. This is Finland. This is Norway. And this is the total confirmed COVID-19 deaths. And, this is linear. So we've got, of course, 0 at the bottom and then 3,000 here. And oh, look at that. Sweden. This is Sweden here. Yes, Sweden is actually off the charts. So, yeah, I guess if you want to emulate their model.
We now know that lockdowns were pretty ineffective at stopping COVID deaths. They kept their schools open, avoiding all the negatives of school shutdowns with a minimal impact on the children. They also, in the end, experienced low excess deaths and low death rates in general.
No one has explained why exactly schools specifically must stay closed. There's a huge cost to that, massive, an entire generation of young people not being educated, because let's not lie to ourselves, they are not. And yet,
well, okay, first off, there is homeschooling, there's also online schooling.
There you go. Tucker was completely right in calling out the huge cost that this would have on children and their education. But serfs can casually dismiss this concern, because the science says so. You don't even have to think about it, bro. What are you doing thinking about stuff? Who do you think you are?
Tell us what to do. You don't have to think about it, dude.
it's supposed to be science. You're supposed to admit when you're wrong. You're supposed to be totally transparent about your reasoning.
Whew, that's rich coming from this man. Admit when you're wrong. Well, I mean, like, I get it. You don't have, like, who has the time, right?
This is incredibly ironic and hypocritical, because Serfs is the one who is completely wrong here, but you won't see any correction or apology from him. That's why I think this video is important, because they were wrong about everything, from lab leaks to lockdowns, mask mandates to education. Now that the evidence is out that they were completely wrong, they'd rather move on and act like nothing happened. I think the same thing will happen with transitioning children. As more evidence comes out and more studies, I think these guys will be proven wrong, but they'll never admit to it.
Yeah. I regret everything I just said. It was false. I apologize. It was wrong. I regret everything I just said. It was false. I apologize. It was wrong.